On today's tutorial, we will learn how to automate the creation of purchase orders on SAP with Python. So we'll have as input this Excel file that has the data needed to create the purchase order. So first we'll need to navigate to this transaction code and then fill, well, the vendor. And then for each line that we have here, for the material, PO quantity, and net price, fill here on this table to then create the purchase order. And then after create the purchase order will appear the purchase order code from SAP. And the idea is to extract this code to paste it here on this column. So I've already in place here the login part. So if you want to learn more specifically about it, you can watch the tutorial that will appear now on the top. Also, I've here the requirements.txt file with the dependencies that will be needed for this tutorial. So create just also one and make sure you have these dependencies mentioned on the file. So then we can run the command pip install -r requirements.txt to install the dependencies missing that are mentioned on the requirements.txt file. Then here I'm importing these dependencies. So here we are seeing the login part that is currently working. So if I execute, we can see that SAP logon is started. And then we'll see the login being done. So now the step that we have developed is the navigation to the transaction code ME21N and then do the creation of purchase order. And to make this part of development faster, we can use the SAP recorder. So we can go here to the script recording and playback. And now here we choose where to store the output, the script. So to start it, we just have to click here on this button. And now simulate the actions to create the purchase order code. So let's do it. So currently the recorder is basically listening to our actions. So let's just simulate the purchase order creation. So let's fill here 2 lines, for example. So now we can click here to create a purchase order, and this pop-up might appear or not on your side. So it's appearing on mine. I'll click on save. And then idea is to extract the code. So let's click here to capture the element. So then we can easily set up the part of extract the text from the status bar to then extract specifically the PO code. And that's basically it. So now we can stop and now we can see the output. So I'll just here open the file. So here we can see it. So initially this part is about connecting to SAP. We don't need it. Then here we have the maximize window that it's also here already. So then to navigate to the transaction of creating purchase orders, we need to execute this. So ME21N. So to then send the key 0, which is basically the enter. So let's bring that to our Python file. So here we just have to adapt and put the 0 between parentheses. And now to don't run everything from the beginning, so I'll comment this login part. Also comment here the starting of SAP logon and also this part. So like this, we just attach to the currently running SAP and work from there. So let's see if the navigation is working. So I'll save the file and execute. So it's being executed. And as we can see, it worked. So now the next step will be to read the Excel file to extract the data from it. So then we create a loop for each row to fill the data. So here, let's read the file. So we'll get as output a data frame. So here we'll use the pandas library. So pd.read Excel, and now here we have to provide the Excel file path that in my case I have here on this variable, and that's basically it. So now if we just do a print to see the output, so let's run, so we can see here on the logs if we are able to read the Excel file. I'll just close it to make sure the Python code is able to run successfully. So here we can see the data, so we are able to retrieve it. So now what we'll do, we'll create a loop for each row of our data frame of our table. So for that we'll use this for loop. So for each row of our data frame, we'll want to execute some specific actions. So the first one will be to fill the vendor. So here on this field. So let's take a look to the VB Script code. And here you can see the part related to the vendor where we indicate the vendor ID. So let's copy it and paste. And so now we want instead to get the vendor from the row that is being iterated. So for that, we just indicate here row, then open brackets, and indicate the column name that stores the vendor, which is vendor. So here, if you open the file, we can see, well, the column names just to make sure. So here we can see it. And one thing that we have to keep in mind is that this will run for each row. So when we go to the second row, as is currently our code, it will try to fill the vendor mentioned on this cell, which doesn't exist. So we have always the vendor here on the first row. So to just fill on the first time on the first row, here we can do the condition if index equals 0. So the index starts by 0 and then goes to 1, 2, 3. So increments per each row. So if index is 0, we want to fill the vendor, else we will not. So that's it. So now I'll close here the file and run. So let's just here go back and run the file. So let's see how it's working. And the vendor was filled successfully. So now after filling the vendor, we want to fill, well, the material, PO quantity, and net price per each row that we have on the file. So here we can see the code where we have that on the VB Script file. So let's copy it and paste. Well, here after the if. So now to see better, I'm just zooming out a bit. So here, let's just fix first the indentation to be inside, well, of the for loop.
Are you ready to master SAP automation with platforms like UiPath, Power Automate, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, and even Python? In my upcoming courses, you'll get hands-on experience and real SAP access so you can practice everything you learn. Free access to SAP is impossible to get as far as I'm aware, but I'll got you covered on my courses. And I'm about to launch these SAP automation courses anytime soon. Subscribe via the link below in the description or in the comments to stay tuned and be the first to know when these courses go live.
So here we have the lines that does the filling of the two rows that we have filled on the recording. And we can see here that basically how we can dynamically target a different row from the SAP table. So we can see here on the first row where we have indicated this material, here we can see the index of the row, which is 0. And then when we have filled the second one, here we can see 1, so the index is 1. So we can see here that we can dynamically handle the line to fill by using the row index from SAP. So first, let's just keep one line of code to fill each of the cells from the 3 different columns. So I'll delete this one, also this one, and this one. So now we have one line of code to fill each column. So now to dynamically change here the index, so starting by 0 and then going always up by 1 per each row, what we'll use here f strings, and we'll use the index that comes from the loop that starts on the 0. And so to use here the index, let's here do the following. So I'm calling now here the index instead of using the hard-coded value. And so what will happen in the first time, we will have the 0 value on the index, so we'll target the first row. Then we'll have the index 1, so we'll target the second row, and so on, so on, so on. So now we have here to change here the value to set. Instead of our coded value, we'll set the one that is currently on the row that we are iterating. So just indicate a column name that has the value that we want to fill. So here it's PO quantity, and here it's net price. And let's see how it's going. So let's here run. So I'll just go back here on SAP and let's run the script. So it starts by navigating to the transaction MB21N, and here we can see that was filled the material per quantity and net price for each row. So if we try now, for example, just to show, I will open here the file. So if we have here other material, for example, this one, and add here just some data, and if we go back and if we run, we will see that dynamically it will jump and fill the third row. So let's just run to see if it will happen. So it takes just some seconds to start, and here we can see that it worked. So it's dynamically filling each row. So now I'll just delete this material that I've added. And well, now the next step is to submit, to create the purchase order. So what we'll do that is here this press that we can see that basically sends, it's a kind of clicking on this button that saves, well, the PO. So let's copy and call that after the loop, so outside of the for loop. That's very important. So like this. So now I'll just here give an enter. And after that, in my case, it appears a pop-up. So this is a line of the code that is handling the pop-up. So let's copy. I'll copy on my side to handle the pop-up and add. And I'll just add here some delay. So ideally we will do this in the dynamic way, so wait the element, the pop-up to appear, and if it appears, handle it. But to keep it just more straightforward, I will just add here a delay of 2 seconds. And also important, we have here to add parentheses to make this valid, so these clicks to be valid. So now let's go back and execute the script. So it's now starting. So we could delete here this sleep of 5 seconds in the beginning, but well, now it's done. So now we will see the PO was created. So now the goal is to extract the code generated. And it seems that I was looking here to the recording, the script, and it didn't catch, I think, the part where I clicked on the status bar. So what we will do, we will, well, record here again. So now let's click here again and let's stop. So now here you can see the updated code. So here you can see the part of the code that is about when we click on the status bar. So here S bar. So let's copy and paste it here. And now instead of doing a double click, we want to get the text and store it on the variable status bar message. So by this way, we will store the text that comes on the status bar. So let's see how it's running. So now let's just add a print statement to print the text that is stored on this variable, and let's run. So let's go back. So here we can see the text that was extracted from the status bar. So now what we'll do to extract only the code, the purchase order number, we'll use regex, so regular expressions. So for that, we'll use the following, so re.search, and this basically here is a pattern that we'll use to match the code. So what this means, the /d plus, is that from the given text, so in this case the text stored on the variable that we are indicated here, we want to get a number that has one or more digits, and that's what we will get. So now let's store this on the variable. And now to save this on the file, first we'll save on the data frame on the purchase order code column the PO code value. So on all cells of this column we'll save the PO code. And now to write the purchase order code extracted on the file, first we will write on the data frame the code on all cells of the purchase order code column. And then we will write back the data frame to the file, so df.toExcel, and then here we have to say the Excel file path. So here we have to pass the variable that has the path, and then here I'll indicate index equals to false to don't include the index on the file that comes from the data frame. So let's see how it's working. So now I'll run everything from the beginning until the end. So let's just uncomment here these lines. So I'll just close SAP and let's run the file. So it's starting now, SAP logon. And now we'll do the login, navigate to the ME21N transaction code, fill the data, create the purchase order created, and now if we take a look to the file, here we can see that was saved on the file on the purchase order code, the PO code, the PO number generated by SAP. And that's it for this tutorial. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up and now subscribe to the channel and enable notifications bell so you don't miss any tutorial released here on the channel.